And we are back. Welcome back to the show, y'all. I'm so glad y'all are tuned in with me for today's episode. If you're new here, welcome. I'm Demi, your host. Get comfortable. You'll like it here. Okay, y'all. Today, while meditating and just getting my mind together about what I wanted this episode to be about, I asked myself, Demi, what's the one thing you think has held you back in the past? I thought to myself, I said, shit, that's a lot of things. But when I really thought about it, I said my perception of myself. And I said, bingo. I said, that's it. That's the episode. So today we're talking about your ego. Not the ego in the way that we typically think, like arrogance or cockiness, but the ego as a survival identity and the root of so much of our struggle, our confusion, and even the inner conflicts we have with ourselves. We're going to talk about the mask you didn't know you were wearing. Yeah, that ego. This episode is about how ego shapes our reality and how, if we are not aware, it can block us from tapping into our higher consciousness, our truth, our peace, and just our personal evolution. So if you ever felt like you just weren't being yourself or reacting in ways that you just don't quite recognize, that's the ego at work. And this episode is going to be for you. So let's unpack it. Now, some of you may ask, what exactly is my ego, Demi? Okay, now y'all stay with me while I try to break this down to where it makes sense and y'all can understand it. Because when I started researching this a few months ago, like just how the mind works in general, and just the whole consciousness and the unconsciousness and just the subconscious mind and all of that, it just became so fascinating because so much of our struggles are stem from our subconscious mind and what we think and tell ourselves on a daily basis. So let's break it down. Okay, so your ego is considered the center of your consciousness, okay, along with your persona that is presented to the outer physical world. Simply put, your ego is the false self or your sense of self. So think about your thoughts, your ideas, and your beliefs that you have about yourself, whether they be negative or positive. They make up your ego self and how you may directly or indirectly showcase yourself to the world. Now, your ego and your persona are part of the self. Now, the self is a representation of your conscious and your unconsciousness, which is a source for all of your individuality as a whole person. Your consciousness is a part of your mind that basically controls your senses. That's when you're thinking about your seeing, your feeling, your tasting, your smell, your touch, anything you can directly, physically see or experience in that moment. While your unconsciousness controls your behaviors, your emotions, your thoughts without you realizing it. Y'all tracking with me? Now, your ego is a vital part of your personality, but only when it's not overpowering your personality. And yourself is a larger, broader concept that represents growth, wisdom, and connection to something that's deeper than us, whether it's God, the universe, whatever you believe in. Now, I hope I broke that down so where it makes sense and y'all understand. Because y'all know I'm not a teacher, but I'm learning my stuff, okay? Now listen, hear me out. Your ego isn't bad, okay? That's not the issue. Our ego is built out of necessity during, our younger childhood years, like most other things. And these are the same years that we start to form our identities in the world. So as kids, we begin forming an ego to help us navigate the world, to stay safe and to get love and to just fit in or feel like we belong. It kind of becomes our alter ego or alternative identity in a way. We pick up roles, perceptions, beliefs, and patterns to protect ourselves. And sometimes we forget we're playing a role. So over time, what happens is the ego stops being the tool that helps us navigate life and becomes a trap or like cancer that starts to take over our identity of self. And the crazy thing is, this happens to a lot of us unconsciously, and we never realize that it has taken over. It starts running the damn show. It convinces us that we are only what we've been through, only what we do, and only what people say about us. The identity of your true self gets completely deformed during this time. I remember when I was coming out as a gay man, I created the persona of Demi Cortez. Demi was created to protect the essence of my true self and my identity from the world. Coming up as a black and gay man in the hood was challenging enough. So what did I do? I went into my inner self and created a persona who I knew basically no one would fuck with. Luckily, I was tall and, I still knew how to hold my own. I could fight, so I never really had any issues defending myself if I needed to. Luckily, I never had to. Creating the persona wasn't the issue though. However, creating the persona and letting it take over my identity was, which is what happened. I found myself masking my vulnerability, and it kept me from connecting with people out of fear, of judgment, and my own insecurities, which we'll get into in another episode. That's a deep topic. You start to hear voices in your head like they're judging you right now, or don't speak up, you'll sound dumb, or you need to prove yourself more, or if you let go, everything is going to fall apart. And I had to realize it's not my intuition. That was my ego right there. And it's loud as hell. It's always in survival mode. And y'all see how this is tied together? We just talked about survival mode. Anyway, your ego doesn't care about your peace. All it cares about is being in control. But the thing is, most of us have been listening to this voice for so damn long, we think it's us, the real us. We've internalized fear as wisdom. We've accepted anxiety as, oh, that's just how I am. And y'all know we love to throw that around. I had it bad. I think I remember telling all of my exes at one point, that's just how I am. I had to learn that damn ego is clever and will have you thinking your trauma is a part of your true personality. It'll make you proud of your pain. It's like a badge of honor. I had to start asking myself, wait, is this really me? Or is this my ego speaking from fear? One of the ego's biggest and nastiest tricks is convincing us and believing that we're separate from others, from love, even from God and spirit. And this is where the ego starts to gain control of the self. It feeds like a leech off the feelings of being greater than, less than, always right or always wrong, worthy and unworthy. This is why it's so important to start to maintain a level of awareness with your inner true self, to maintain that balance and keep your ego in check. Your true consciousness can see beyond the tricks of the ego though. It recognizes the oneness, the connection with spirit and source. You are not just in the universe. You are the universe expressing itself in human form right now, having a human experience in this world. I want y'all to really listen to that. The ego fears the truth because it can't control it. And we talked about control in the previous episode too. Here it comes up again. Your ego loses its grip when you remember you're not alone and you're not what happened to you and you aren't tied to your past. Your past doesn't define your future and it never will. Now, let's get into how your ego blocks you from evolving. Your ego's goal when it's in control is to keep you stuck in constant states of lower consciousness. Think of feelings like fear of failure and rejection or perfectionism, needing to get it right all the time or even constant comparisons, always measuring yourself to others and their journey. Have you ever felt like you were just never enough? That's it. That's the feeling. Never feeling like you can just be in a state of peace and oneness. Your ego tells you things like you're not enough yet. You need to do more, go harder, or do more to earn their love. Y'all, this is not a healthy state of being, nor is it a representation of your true self. Living from a frequency fueled by ego will stop you from evolving because you will be stuck in the continuous loop of trying to prove yourself, be perfect all the time, or be better than others. Now, your consciousness isn't about striving for perfection or acceptance from anyone. It's about returning and just being you, returning to what's always been true. And that is you were whole before the world or your ego tried to tell you otherwise. Now, let me tell you this. Your ego doesn't disappear just because you start doing the work or working on yourself or starting your healing journey. Nah, that's not how that works. Your ego actually loves your growth. It will turn your healing into a performance. It'll have you competing in your own damn healing journey. And then, now you listen to me closely right now. You'll be wondering and asking yourself, why do I still feel unfulfilled? Even though I'm doing all the right things on my healing journey. This was a complete mindfuck for me, okay? Because I didn't get it. But here's the truth. If you're healing from ego, you're not healing. You're just hustling for wholeness. You start to catch yourself doing things just to prove you're healed or evolved. You want to show the people that hurt you how you've healed and moved on. When in reality, your ego is still running the show. But if you're healing from consciousness, you're not chasing an outcome. You don't have to prove anything to anybody. You're just remembering who you already were before the ego took over. And I hope that makes sense to y'all like it does in my head. Because when I realized that, I said, oh shit. It'll make you rethink your whole healing process. It'll make you put everything in perspective in an entirely different way. So make sure y'all are not healing from ego, but you're healing from consciousness. Now, here's the $1,000,000 question. How the hell do you know when your ego is running the show? Like I said previously, your ego is tricky. And if you aren't aware of yourself, you can miss the signs. So start being present with yourself and look for the indications. They will always be loud and clear when you aren't focused on the distractions. Start looking at the signs like the need to validate yourself all the time or defend yourself. Then there's my personal favorite, when you become attached to an identity and start resisting change. If your ego is in control, you aren't evolving. At one point in my life, my ego was completely running the show, as I said earlier. It was turning me into a person that I didn't even recognize when I looked in the mirror. It's like I saw myself, but then it wasn't me. You know, I felt like I was looking at a stranger. It was like a version of myself who acted as my protector and my armor because that's what it was supposed to do. But at the same time, my inner self was looking back at me in the mirror saying, I want to be free. I want to come out. I had built up such a tough exterior at one point and started fully operating in only my masculine energy. And I didn't even realize, or I forgot, that I had a whole part of myself that was being hidden from the world. I wasn't tapping into my full capabilities or my inner power. I was operating from fear and my ego was running the show. Your ego acts from fear and judgment. Consciousness responds from love and a sense of completeness. So you would never have to hide any part of yourself, your authentic self, when your ego is not running the show. So now the question becomes, how do I come back to my consciousness when my ego tries to overtake my identity? And this answer is simple, but it's not always easy. You watch your ego like a damn hawk. Without reacting to it though, you start to observe your thoughts without attaching to the feelings that may come up. In this phase, it's in the pause, it's in the stillness that you then will be able to come back to your consciousness. So I want you to try this going forward. When you feel your ego flare up or try you, ask yourself, what part of me is trying to protect something right now? Or what am I afraid will happen if I let go in this moment? And don't rush the damn answers, y'all. Sit with yourself. Start to really listen to yourself and feel how you are truly feeling. You can't do this when you blasting music in your car or if your mind is already full of thoughts. Take a moment of stillness and acknowledge what you are feeling in that moment. At stillness and clarity is where your ego loses its grip. And your real self, the one beyond survival, gets to speak. Now, this episode isn't about bashing your ego. It's about looking for the clues of imbalance in an overtake of power. Because we all know that power can be addictive if left uncontrolled. And I want you to know your ego isn't evil. It's just exhausted. It's been carrying your pain and your trauma for years. It's been your shield, your script, and your survival identity. Some of you been wearing your ego in the forefront of your lives and your identity for years, like I was, that you lose sight of who you really were. And it starts to keep you from your full capabilities of what you can achieve and what you can do because you're scared to step out. You're scared to voice your opinion. You're scared to really say how you feel and what you really want out of fear of judgment or isolation or abandonment. Sometimes your ego has saved your life if we really keeping it honest. But at this point in your life, it's not meant to lead you anymore. It's not meant to lead the ship because what got you here can't take you to where you're now going because you're doing what? You're evolving. Now you don't have to destroy your ego. You just must stop letting it run your life. And when you can do that, you reclaim your power. You step out of survival and into wholeness. Now here's what I want y'all to remember as we get ready to close out this episode. Integrating your ego with your true self is the goal. That's it. We all need a little ego every now and then. Sometimes you need that extra boost of courage to talk in front of a group or pitch a new idea at work. You could also just be a little shy and need a little armor when you navigate new spaces, friend groups, or, networking events. Your ego, ironically, is like a mirror that reflects the parts of you that may be unhealed or need more inner work. And that's okay. This is why we're evolving. Learning to incorporate meditation and breath work, pure silence, or simply slowing down and witnessing your thoughts without judgment can help you shift from ego to awareness and stay in control of yourself. So if at any point you feel like you're leading from a place of ego, be still with yourself and process what your emotions are in that moment, what your behaviors are, what you're really feeling. Whew. Yeah, this is a lot to process. Gathering my notes and my thoughts definitely got me in my feelings for this one. But I had to get this episode done because, like I said earlier, I realized I was healing from a place of ego and something clicked in me. Like I was healing from a place of having to prove myself to I don't even want to say it, but prove myself to something that doesn't even matter anymore. Fuck it. Someone who doesn't even matter anymore. That's healing. When you can say it and admit stuff like that. So maybe, this episode will click for you in some way, shape, or form. If you are where I was, as always, I hope these episodes help you in some capacity. And you don't need to do anything with the information right now. Just sit with yourself, ask yourself the questions, sit with them, let them sink in. Repeat the episode if you need to. Because this journey of healing and evolving is nonstop. I'm telling you right now, it's nonstop. But as you start the process, it gets easier to navigate, because you start to become one with yourself again. And you start realizing things and experiencing things. And it actually makes the healing process, I don't want to say fun, but it makes it exciting and worthwhile, especially when you're able to look at yourself from this new lens and this new perspective and see how far you've come, and how far you still gotta go. But that's why it's called a healing journey. So until next time, y'all, I hope y'all have an amazing day. Thank you guys for holding space with me. And I'll see y'all in the next episode. Let's continue to evolve out loud together, baby.